How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Today we have a bit of an interesting one. So I'm going to be going over my losers round 9 of the EU Players Cup. Sorry, this is taking a bit longer to get out than I was hoping it would, but better late than never. Also strapping because this is probably going to be quite a long video. As you can see, the battle itself is like kind of 45 minutes long. Plus I'll probably be the kind of starting to go over certain stuff. But yeah, this video is going to be kind of like a breakdown of my thought process during the moves, kind of analysis of the matchup, analysis of my moves, what I could have done, what would have worked, what wouldn't have worked. So it's going to be a lot more like in-depth than my normal commentary videos, which I guess is the benefit of kind of a post-commentary video rather than a live commentary one. So yeah, hopefully if you find this kind of stuff interesting, then this is the video for you. So we're gonna just kind of start by looking at the matchup here. So this is open team sheet. So I know all of my opponent's sets. So it is. Oh, my cursor's on screen. Oops, I should probably not be displaying my cursor. But yeah, it's. It is Sash Regieleki. It is Mystic Water Kyogre with was it Thunder or Ice? I believe this had Ice Beam actually. It had Taunt, which is an interesting one. I believe it was Citrus. Pharaoh's Leftovers, P2's Eviolite, and then Dragapult was an interesting one because it was Dragon Darts, Phantom Force, Fly, and Will-O-Wisp with a Lumberry, which okay, got my cursor not there anymore. Which, as we will see later on, is like that specifically is a rough Pokemon for my team to deal with. The combination of Lum and Wisp. So kind of off the bat, the matchup is already kind of not in my favour, right? So Ferrothorn is a hard Pokemon for me to deal with. Like the combination of Ferrothorn plus Dragapult plus Rain is very difficult for me to deal with. Because my special attacker, being Charizard, does not want to deal with Kyogre or Regieleki, or really Dragapult that much, for that matter. It can't really do anything if Rain's up. And then P2's just not got enough firepower to break through a Body Press Ferrothorn, because this is Body Press Leech Seed stuff. Yeah, so I could potentially try and set up with Thundurus and Groudon, but Will-O-Wisp on Dragapult makes that very difficult. So like normally against a Ferrothorn set like this, what I could do is just leave Charizard back end, and then just hit around the Ferrothorn, play All My Friends Are Dead, and then just kill the Ferrothorn at the end. But I cannot do that because of the Will-O-Wisp on Dragapult. So this matchup is already very heavily against me, which is probably a good meta call from Giulio, because so much of the tournament was Sun teams, and Giulio's team has a really good matchup into Sun. I think Lum Dragapult is probably at least partially designed to deal with Sun. But because I had all this information beforehand, I could like plan out my leads to an extent. So you can see what I locked in for game 1 was Thunder Amoonguss at the start with Instinct Groudon, and this was basically a bait because I was worried about Will-O-Wisp Dragapult lead for obvious reasons, and so I think Giulio here would have wanted to get his Dragapult out and stop Will-O-Wisp with my physical attackers. But the problem is, I have a Amoonguss, so I could just redirect the Will-O-Wisp, right? So his way of getting around that is Incin. So I planned around this lead, and I led Thunder Amoonguss with the plan of, like, I can redirect this Will-O-Wisp unless they lead Incineroar as well. If they lead Incineroar, I get a boost on Thundurus, and I use Amoonguss as bait. Because in order to get the Will-O-Wisp off, they'd need to fake out my Amoonguss and Will-O-Wisp my Thundurus. And you'll see what my play around that is once we get started. But I kind of planned this game 1 in advance. So let me just skip ahead to. So yeah, the leads end up being we get the. Oh, why is my playback being slow? Oh, sorry. Why is this being so slow? Come on. Is this gonna work? This is going at like 2 frames a second. Why is my video playing back so slowly? This just isn't working, is it? Oh, I don't have to re-record that entire 5 minutes, come on. Okay. Are we back? Okay, we're back. So they do lead the Instant Dragapult, and so my play here is that I want to switch in my Groudon to try and get a speed boost on Groudon here, as you can see. So I locked this in quickly because I've already kind of planned this in advance, right? Okay, never mind, I don't lock it in very quickly. Oh no, what I was doing, I was just double checking that I actually pressed the buttons correctly. Because so this whole of this match I was terrified of misinputting. Yeah, so that's the move I go for. Amoonguss switches out, right? In comes Groudon. I'm going to skip the max animation because max animation takes ages. There's my max. Yeah, so they do fake out my Amoonguss slot as predicted, and they go for the Will-O-Wisp on Thundurus, and it misses, right? And that is fortunate on my end, certainly, because we'll see now that this Airstream picks up the KO, right? But I had planned around getting burned there. So that miss, although it was unfortunate, didn't really make that much of a difference in my opinion to this game. Because my entire game plan for this game was to set up Groudon, right? And so now I've got an Airstream boost on Groudon. I can start pressing Max Knuckle. Even if Dragapult hadn't gone down there and they had burned me, I could have gone for like Airstream Swords Dance or Airstream P-Blades this coming turn to get rid of Dragapult and then have my Groudon be set up. Obviously, this does open up a little bit of an avenue here for me to just go Knuckle and P-Blades as a Ferrothorn. Like, the rest of this game is kind of heavily in my favour because of that miss. But I think I had I'd planned around getting burned on turn 1 there. So I didn't really mind that too much. So I'm just going to skip ahead. Where's the start of the next turn? Oh yeah, they're maxing their Incineroar, I forget. Okay, so they're maxing Incineroar. I don't remember what they go for here. So I think I just go for Knuckle P-Blades here, right? So I just want this Ferrothorn dead. So I do Knuckle into Ferrothorn, I guess. Yep. And then I P-Blades with Groudon. So Ferrothorn goes down here. And Instant dodges, right? Take note of that dodge. Ferrothorn goes down, yep. Flare should do... How much does this do? Like half or something? A bit over half, yeah. Jesus. I feel like that was quite an offensive Incineroar. Like, that did a lot of damage. I know it's sun boosted, but that did a lot. Okay, Kyogre comes in, because obviously Kyogre was the back end. But now I'm in a position where my Groudon is faster than both these Pokemon. I've got a Thundurus at +1. Their Incineroar is weakened by their own rain. So Lightning the Kyogre, yeah. I mean, this is just the safe play, isn't it? At this point, I'm just pressing buttons. I'm trying to remember what Giulio does now, actually. Yeah, I think like this game is kind of locked. Like, I think I would have been in a good position had the Will-O-Wisp hit me. But given the Will-O-Wisp missed, like, this game was kind of locked up from turn 1. They protect Kyogre. Take note of what they do here. So Giulio makes a really interesting play. I remember now. Giulio makes a really interesting play this turn. Kyogre takes just a whole bunch from that. Like, that thing's just dead. Because that was a +1 wild charge, so it's still sorry, +1 max lightning, so it's still doing over half through protect. P-Blades hits protect and whiffs on Incid. Bear in mind that this is wide lens Groudon, so the chances of any individual Precipice Blaze missing is 7%. Right, it's a 93% accurate move, and I've now missed 2 consecutive. So my opponent goes for a max strike to try and drop my speed. Which does make sense. Because if they can slow my Thundurus down so that it's slower than Kyogre, then I'm in a decent spot. Why did I crunch there? So maybe my best play here, actually, weirdly, would have been to switch out Thundurus. Because Thundurus is the only thing I have on my team that outspeeds Kyogre at this point. Or the only thing of the 4 I've brought. Like, Amoonguss can deal with Kyogre somewhat. But like if my opponent goes for double protect here, and gets it, then I'm in a bad spot. So in hindsight, I think my best play would have been to go for to go for a switch on Thundy there, just so I can bring it in without a speed drop. So my opponent does go for another max strike here, I believe. I miss another P-Blades, which is just ridiculous at this point. I think the reason I didn't want to switch my Thundy is because I kind of got hooked up on the number of attack boosts I had. So I was like, oh, I don't want to switch out all those attack boosts. But the attack boosts were meaningless at that point. So I think I should have switched my Thunders there. But I mean, at this point, the game's still kind of over because they didn't get the double protect. Yeah, if I didn't play around the double protect working there. If the double protect had worked, I would have been in a bad spot. I guess I could have brought in Incineroar if they'd... actually, would I? Because if they, KO Thunderous... Instant comes in, I have Fake Out P-Blades next turn. Maybe I wouldn't have been in bad shape, actually. I think my opponent's best play there actually would have been to go for Max Strike into Groudon, just so they don't give me a free KO. Because then if they get the double protect that turn, and Instant survives, they can go, like, Kyogre weak fast in both my Pokemon, they just pick up a double KO with Spout, and then they have Protect back on the board again. Yeah. So that was kind of the opening gambit for game 1. The problem with that is I planned my game 1, but that trick is just not going to work. I bring the same 4, because the 4 did pretty well. But the issue was that gambit wasn't going to work twice, because if my opponent knows that I'm trying to bait them, they're just not going to fall for the same trap again. So I think I was just spending this time trying to kind of map out various routes that the game could go. So I'm just going to skip ahead to the game. So they bring out Dragapult Ferrothorn. I'm just going to skip because I know what happens here. So I believe I go for Rage Powder and I max Thundy. So they're guaranteed to not hit my Thunderous this turn. They max their Pult. I max my Thundy. Okay, so they've just airstreamed into my Code Berry Mooga, so they get a bit of a speed boost. And they deal a decent chunk. And then I also go for an Airstream. Now, looking back on it now, I really don't think that maxing Thunderous here was the play, or at least going for the Airstreams was the play. Because Dragapult is always going to be faster than me, right? Because Dragapult's not going to press Wormwind or Phantasm here. Because, like, they'd just boost up my Thunderous if so. So I think I should have gone for a... I should have probably gone for, like, a Darkness or something, just for maximum damage on Pult. And then on this turn, I think I also should have gone after Pult, in hindsight. Because I saw that the Ferrothorn was starting to set up, and I got scared. And I guess rightly so to an extent, just because, like, I didn't bring Charizard this game. I don't have an answer now for Ferrothorn. This is why Ferrothorn's such an issue for my team, is that Charizard, and maybe to an extent Porygon too, are the only things that can really hit it for damage once it starts setting up iron defenses. Like, Instin's still doing decent damage, but plus 2 Body Press is doing a lot. And that's damage I really don't want to have to take. So yeah, I think my mistake here was letting Ferrothorn get too set up. Because now this Max Knuckle Watch is going to do like 3 damage. That's nothing. So in hindsight, what I could have done there is I could have just killed the Dragapult to get rid of the threat of Will-O-Wisp. And I think, again, that's what I should have done. I should have focused down the Dragapult there. And then played for, like, a crit on Ferrothorn in the late game or something. Because if I can get rid of their Dragapult and I can force their Kyogre in, then I'm actually still not in awful shape against their... against them, because they don't really want to bring in Kyogre in that situation, because obviously they're facing down a Thunderous, right? So I think if I'd just taken out the Dragapult here, what I could have done is I could have just, like, I would have had Thunderous putting pressure on Kyogre, so it couldn't have just gone for a free Water Spout. And I would have had Incineroar putting, like, even in Rain, Incineroar's putting some pressure on Ferrothorn. So I think I should have gone after... I was a little scared of a Max Guard, potentially. But I'm not sure I necessarily needed to be. So I think I should have spent more time going after Dragapult here. Like, this turn... I can't remember if I called the Max Guard or not, but... Yeah, I think it would have been more sensible for me to try and focus down the Dragapult in the early turns. Okay, so double protect. So this is where it starts getting tricky. Because this Ferrothorn is now set up to a point where I just can't really beat it, especially when they have Rain in the back, and they have access to Will-O-Wisp again on Dragapult. And again here, I think I spent too long leaving the Dragapult alone. So I could have just gone for like a Darkest Lariat into Dragapult there. Or something along those lines. But I did not. Yeah, it's funny actually, like, I thought I played this set quite well at the time, but now, like, looking back on how I played, I made a lot of mistakes this set. This was not the best Pokemon I've ever played. I think a lot of it was nerves. Like, I had better plays in pretty much all these situations. So they switched out Ferrothorn there, which, I guess, I'll tell you what. Yeah, I switched in Groudon because I wanted to try and call them switching in Kyogre and get the sun up. But they didn't take the bait. Which makes sense because like that Groudon switching is really obvious, and now I've played my weather card. I can't remember what I click here actually. Yeah, like at this point I'm in such a bad position that like the game is borderline unsalvageable. I could have maybe gone for the Sword Stance with Groudon here just to get some, like, I think I got greedy for damage, but the thing is though, if they bring in Kyogre here, a Sword Stance doesn't do anything for me anyway, just because I'm under threat of death. So what I could have potentially done is gone for, like, Sword Stance switching Thundurus, because that gets my Groudon, like, effectively back to neutral, so I'm still doing some damage, and then Thundurus can threaten the Kyogre if they switch it in. But yeah, no, I'm just in a horrible position now. This P-Blades does like some damage, but not much, because I'm intimidated and burned. Like it may have looked like a pretty hard read to bring the Incin in when I had a Thundurus on the field, but the thing is that if they go for the Will-O-Wisp there, then it doesn't really matter, because they know I don't have Protect, so I can't stop the Will-O-Wisp. So I'm still at like less than neutral damage if they give me the Defiant boost, but still Will-O-Wisp me. So I'm just not doing that much damage with it. Yeah, I'm just in a bad spot now, basically. Like it's 4 Pokemon each, but because the matchup's so bad, I need an early advantage in this game to give me any way of getting through the Ferrothorn. Like Burn Groudon can't hit Ferrothorn. Amoonguss literally can't hit Ferrothorn. Incineroar can to an extent, but in rain it doesn't do that much, and it takes a lot from body press. And then, yeah, okay, they just spout here. And I don't think this kills my Moongus, but I'm pretty oh, no, Moongus. Sorry, Instant won't finish it off from there. So yeah, I get spouted, and then I will say at this point, I think again partially nerves. I completely forgot that Instant had Taunt. I had it written down on a piece of paper in front of me, but I literally just forgot that Incineroar had Taunt. Which... with that knowledge, I would have done something different that turn. So, let's actually just pause and analyse what I could have done there. So, if I remember that Incineroar has Taunt there, what do? I guess I don't really have an option, to be honest. Like, as soon as I brought a Moongus in there, I'm just kind of screwed. In hindsight. Because I have no offensive pressure against Kyogre, and I've got no switch-ins in the back. So I could have potentially protected the Moongus just to save some damage on it, and then got Thundurus in on that slot, which would have threatened the Kyogre. But even then, like, in that situation, I would have had to then make a read and I think double into the Incin or something with, like, Wild Charge Sludge Bomb. Reading a Protect on Kyogre or a Switch. And, like, if I get that wrong, it's... like, I'm in awful shape. Like, if they just switch Ferrothorn into that slot. I mean, I guess I probably wouldn't because they'd be scared of a superpower. But, like, if they switch Ferrothorn into the Kyogre slot, for example, I'm in bad shape. Because then even if Incin goes down, I've got Kyogre Ferrothorn facing me down and I'm kind of dead. Like, that's the thing that makes a lot of bad matchups so bad, is the fact that my opponent has a lot more leeway in this matchup than I do, whereas I have to call every turn, like, I have to call every turn correctly in order to, or call most turns correctly at least, in order to put myself in a good position, and I am not calling turns very well at the moment. Like, this game lasts for a while. Spoiler alert, I lose it. If you couldn't tell by the runtime, this does go to a game 3. Yeah, I'm just in such a bad situation here that, like, what do I even go for? I can't remember. I think I do. Do I try and make a read here? I feel like I do. I can't remember what it is. Oh, I tried to hard read the Ferrothorn coming in on Kyogre. That's what it was. Like, at this point, I'm just praying that my opponent makes a mistake. Because I'm a Pokemon down. I have no good outs here. So I have to pray for my opponent to make a mistake. And the mistake that I was praying for them to do there was just switching their Ferrothorn into the Kyogre slot. Because if Ferrothorn switches in on Kyogre there and I hit Ferrothorn with a big old... so if I hit Ferrothorn with a superpower there, I think that would probably put it in range of a Flare Blitz. Which meant that I would be in a decent position because... well, I guess if they switch their Dragapult in, then less so. But, like, assuming they didn't switch their Pult and left their Incident, I guess they could have Parting Shot. Actually, I guess if they switch Kyogre into... if they switch Kyogre into Ferrothorn, they probably Parting Shot off my... I guess they're probably Parting Shot off of Moongus, because I kind of have to switch into Incin there. Yeah, basically I'm praying that my opponent makes a mistake on this turn, which they don't. Like, Giulio just played this very sensibly. And like when you've got a winning matchup into an opposing team, often all you have to do is just play sensible. And like play safe and conservative. I'm the one who's going to have to try and make all of the kind of big reads and stuff. Which I think kind of shows in this game. Yeah, Giulio just played this, like once he got an early lead, he just didn't let it go. He positioned himself really nicely. It's very reminiscent, in fact, of the way I lost in the first Players' Cup in my last game. It's just a lot of like pivoting around and stuff. Yeah, I mean that switch's pretty safe because I'd have to like hard call that and Flare Blitz into. I'd have to Flare Blitz into Kyogre, and even then it wouldn't do that much damage. The only way I could kill Ferrothorn there is if they miss Will-O-Wisp on Thundurus and I double into that slot with Superpower Flare Blitz. And if they just press Water Spout that turn, I lose. So, this is what I mean, like, that switch is so safe most of the time. Like, my Fake Out is really obvious there, but I've just not got much else I can do unless I'm making, like, insanely hard reads. Yeah, I'm considering just sparing you guys the pain of the rest of this game, but I figure I might as well go through it. I've just got nothing I can do here with a Moongus. Why do I protect? Wait, why am I protecting Moongus here? What am I protecting from? I mean, I guess I've got no other option, but I could just spore the Dragapult slot, I guess. I don't know why I protected there. Protecting there is weird. So I could have spawned Dragapult just to try and get some chip damage. I could also switch into Thundurus. Okay, Parting Shot Ferrothorn. That was literally just to pivot. I don't need the attack drop from Ferrothorn. That was just to get my Incineroar out. Potentially capture switch in. And then comes Thundy, but like there's a Phantom Force going into my Moongus slot here. Yeah, again, I don't know why I protected. Yeah, I get Leech Seeded. So they get health back. Wait, what happened there? I switched my Incineroar into the Amoonguss slot to try and eat a Phantom Force. Which, like, again, I called the target correctly, but I'm just in such a bad spot that it doesn't really matter. I crunch into Pult, which kills. So I get rid of the Will-O-Wisp for that, which is something. But the thing is, though, my Thundurus is now on a timer. And my opponent's still got Fake Out Pressure and an Iron Defense Ferrothorn. And they can just reset raid, and I have no way of setting Sun up. So now that this Ferrothorn's at +2 and they still have Sun, the game is over, basically. I would need an insane amount. I think I'd need, like, Flare Blitz crit burn on Ferrothorn to have a chance or something. Because I guess this is probably... actually, you probably bring an Instant here to fake out the... Oh, no, you bring Kyogre. I mean, I guess you have Protect. Which is pretty set. You can just Protect Body Press my Thundurus is what I guess you would go for here. Not sure why you'd really do anything else. Because Kyogre's at risk of just perishing here. The other thing you could do is just switch Incineroar. What did I guess I read the Protector and switch, but what do I achieve by doing that? Oh, I guess if I Parting Shot with the Incin, yeah. So Parting Shot with Incin, I eat, like, what I'm trying to do here is eat a Body Press on my Moongus, and then Parting Shot back into Thundurus on the other slot. So I do get the Protect call correct. I go for a Parting Shot. Although I think my opponent makes a sensible play here and just goes for Leech Seed, don't they? If I remember correctly. I could be wrong. Curse off over here. So I bring Thundy back in. I think this is this Leech Seed? I can't remember. No, they do just body press the Amoonguss. So again, I called that turn completely correctly, and it gives me some positional advantage, but honestly not much. So they switch into Incin here. Like, I've got a free Wild Charge into that slot. And yeah, so I Wild Charge Spore, which means that if they switch into Incin, it gets put to sleep. But, again, Giulio doesn't need to call turns or take risks here, because even though I called that correctly, I've just taken a chunk of damage on Amoonguss. Like, Incin comes in, I get my Thundy boost, but now they can just body press Thunder us. I guess maybe what I could have done here is I could have gone for Superpower Crit into Ferrothorn. But the problem with that is it lowers my defense if I don't get it, and I just lose to body press. I believe I do go for the Superpower Crit into Ferrothorn next turn, but okay. Yeah, like if I could have avoided that. Yeah, actually, I should have gone for the Superpower Crit into Ferrothorn that turn. Like that was my win con, because the instant switch there was really obvious. I think I should have just hard read that and gone for Superpower Crit into Ferrothorn. Because at that point, that's my only win condition. And the issue with not going for that is now my Thunderous has taken so much damage from that body press that if I kill Ferrothorn, I still have no answer to Kyogre in the back end. Because I died to the recoil from Iron Barbs. So yeah, I should have gone for the Superpower Crit into Ferrothorn last turn. Just because, like, that way, if I get the Superpower Crit into Ferrothorn on the turn before, then I have a chance. Because I think I have to switch Thundy into Incin and, like, protect Amoonguss, and then I bring Thunderous back in. I have... Oh no, Incin's asleep, isn't it? Sorry, can't fake out. So in fact, I wouldn't have to do that. I'd just have to go for... Yeah, I just have to keep pressing Wild Charge into Kyogre. Basically, if I landed the crit the turn before, I keep pressing Wild Charge into Kyogre and I win the game. So I do go for the Superpower Crit, and I don't get it. Yeah, so in hindsight, my out there was to Superpower Crit Ferrothorn the turn before that, so I didn't take as much body press damage. So the Thunderous would have lived, and then I could have still spored the Incineroar and then gone for Wild Charge into Kyogre. In fact, I think if I wanted to be extra safe, I could have gone switch into Incineroar on the Amoonguss slot and Wild Charge, which means that I fake out the Incin next turn, which means it can't, like, wake up. Kyogre gets double protect, and then it Darkest Lariats me or whatever. Because then I ended up with their Intimidating Incineroar against my Incineroar and my Amoonguss, which I think I end up winning eventually. Because I can just keep pressing Sludge Bomb, eventually I'll get a Poison. But yeah, that's game 2. Like, they just press Wall Spout here and win. I'm not gonna make you watch it. So yeah, that was the win con there. I think I should have tried to go for the Ferrothorn. Like after the initial turns, I think I played the rest of this game pretty well in trying to like get rid of the Dragapult, make sure my Thunderous didn't get burned. But then I just didn't like. I had an out there after they because like the switch on the Kyogre slot is really obvious there. There's no reason for them not to go for it, I think. And so if I'd read that and gotten the crit on that turn, then I win the game. And that was my out. So I should have taken the one in 16. Sometimes you have to. That's a lesson in Pokemon a lot of the time is identifying when your win con is just getting lucky. Because if I don't get some luck in that game somewhere, I lose. Right? There's no way I win that without a crit or a burn or something like that somewhere in there. So I think it would have done me well to identify that my win con there was the crit on Ferrothorn on the previous turn. But I just didn't, like, obviously because you've only got 45 seconds when you're actually playing the game, it's very hard to recognise that, like, oh, if I hit the Kyogre this turn, and again, that would have necessitated me making a very hard read, well, not a very hard read, but it would have necessitated me reading the switch into Incineroar there, and in that situation, recognising that I couldn't afford to go for the superpower to go for the Wild Charge that turn, because then I'd take too much damage from the body press and then I die to the recoil or whatever. So it's stuff like that like, kind of on reflection, would have been the best play, but it's hard to judge that at the time. Yeah, so we go into game 2. My thinking going into game 3. My thinking going into game 3 is I got bot by Ferrothorn, right? And what I'm thinking here is I need to bring Charizard. Because once Ferrothorn gets an Iron Defense up, I just don't have answers to it. So I'm thinking I need to adapt here and I need to bring Charizard. My opponent hasn't brought a Lecky yet, so I might be safe from that. And outside of that, Charizard is a big threat. The issue, though, is I didn't commit to that lead very hard. Or not lead, I didn't commit to the strategy very hard at all. Because I believe what I do here is I try and lock in Zard as my lead. Or I think about locking Zard as my lead and then just go back to what I had before. I'm just going to pause for a second. So, I kind of agree with the 4 I brought here. I'd maybe say Incineroar over Amoonguss I could have a case for, especially if I'm not leading it. Just because Amoonguss doesn't do anything to Ferrothorn, and I think I need to be more careful of a Ferrothorn endgame. Yeah, I didn't think this through at the time, but I could have led Charizard here. Because the only things that really threaten a Charizard lead are, like, or the only things on that team that threaten Charizard that much are Eleki and Kyogre. And admittedly, both of them threaten it a lot. But the issue is, I didn't think Giulio would bring Eleki at all. And even if he did, I didn't think he would lead it. Because I've led Thunder Amoonguss every single time. Eleki is a terrible lead into that, right? So I don't think he wants to risk leading Eleki into that. And there's no way you lead Regieleki into a Thunderous... no way you lead Kyogre into a Thunderous Amoonguss lead. Because you need to leave that in the back for the weather control, right? So there's no way that my opponent leads either of those Pokemon, I think, into Charizard. So it would have actually been safe here to go for a Charizard lead just to immediately threaten out Ferrothorn. Which I didn't consider, because if I'd led Charizard here, I would have had potential switch-ins for the back. I don't need to Dynamax Thundurus this game, because I'm mostly using it just to outspeed Kyogre and kill it. Which it does outside... Well, it doesn't actually guaranteed KO bulky Kyogre outside of max, but it still does a lot of damage, right? And if I'm planning on maxing Charizard, I've probably got Wildfire up, and so it's taking chip anyway from that. So I could have potentially led Charizard and tried to go for a turn 1 Dynamax with that. Which was an option I had. If I were to do that, I think I'd probably lead Charizard Incin or Charizard Amoonguss, something like that. Just because that gives you the option to put stuff to sleep early game, redirect Will-O-Wisps if need be, if I'm trying to switch Groudon in, put stuff to sleep, I think I already said. But yeah, so I probably could have led Charizard in this game. I did not, though, because I'm a coward. So they go Pulp Ferrothorn again, because that lead is very safe for them. Just an example, if I'd led Charizard into this, I could have gone for... if I'd led Amoonguss Charizard, I could have just gone, well, I probably could have just gone, Rage Powder, Heat Wave. And at the very least, that's some chip damage and a chance at a burn. I guess the risk there is I would have had to try and reposition afterwards, but, if they switch in Kyogre onto their Ferrothorn slot there, I have a relatively safe go at just switch Groudon into the Thundy slot, get Sun up, and Spore the Kyogre. So that could have been a potential lead that I could have used, which I didn't recognise at the time. So yeah, my opponent, again, Dynamax Dragapult was really good for them last game, and I think in their head there's not really any reason for them to not go for it again. The reason, offensive Dragapult with Will-O-Wisp is such an issue for me, because it can either Will-O-Wisp Thundy, or if it reads the Rage Powder here, it can just, Actually, why do I Rage Powder here? I guess I've not got much else to do, but, I could have at least burned the Dragapult's Lumberry. Yeah, Rage Powder was a dumb move here, because, they're not going to go for... Given I've maxed Thundurus 2 times in a row, they're not going to go for, a Whirlwind or a Phantasm, because they'd just give my Thundurus an attack boost, right? So there's no way they're going for anything other than Airstream, because they want to keep speed control, and if they're Airstreaming, they're always Airstreaming into Amoonguss anyway. So what I should have done there probably is either Protect or Spore the Dragapult. Spore Dragapult doesn't do much, it just burns the... burns their Lumberry. Because I don't need to be scared of Will-O-Wisp or whatever into Charizard there. I was just weirdly scared of just a fat swing into the Zard. Which I shouldn't have been. So I do bring Zard in now. Which is fine. So this next turn goes really well for me here, because I think they Iron Defense their Ferrothorn, I believe. Yes, they go for the Iron Defense. So what they do here is I think they read the Wildfire to Ferrothorn, which makes sense. I Dynamax my Charizard. And what I click here is I click Airstream. Reason being, I read Ferrothorn switching out. Ferrothorn never wants to stay in here. And I figure, okay, I can try and get some speed control over Kyogre here. If Dragapult went for Airstream here, then I could have been in trouble. And in fact, in hindsight, oops, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. I meant to... where were we? Okay, so there's Dark Innovation. Like, if Dragapult had gone for another Airstream into Amoonguss, I would have been in trouble, because they would have had speed control over my Charizard with their Kyogre. Which I didn't actually consider, which was a mistake. Well, I guess it wouldn't really have mattered that much, because I would have... Like, I still get a chunk of damage onto the Kyogre here. And then we're able to switch in Groudon. And I think I would have been fine from there. So I Rage Powder, I take some damage away from... Oh, I think they probably targeted Charizard as well. Is another option they have. Like, they probably went for Phantasm for damage on Charizard. Amoonguss lives on 1. Which is kind of actually not that great for me. I would have almost rather Amoonguss drop there so I get a free switch into Groudon. So I do about half to Kyogre, right? That's really good damage. This next turn, thinking about it after the game makes me very sad, because I realised that I didn't throw. Like, it's not like I had a guaranteed win con if I make the right move here. But I'm in a really good spot if I do, right? Like, I think I'm in a position where I'd have to really try hard to lose if I just play the right move this turn, regardless of what my opponent does. And that move here is I should have switched Groudon into the Amoonguss. Like, I went for a Rage Powder on Amoonguss to, like, eat a max move from Dragapult. Kyogre is slow. It's always going to be slower than my Charizard now. So I didn't need to Airstream, because even if they Airstream with Dragapult this turn, Kyogre's a +1, Charizard's a +1, right? So I'm always outspeeding. But I figured, right, if you've got Incineroar, Ferrothorn, Kyogre as your 3 options on that slot, you can either protect your Kyogre, in which case an Airstream boost is kind of useful if they don't Airstream with Dragapult. But again, they've no reason not to, I'm never outspeeding that. So Airstream is not wise for that reason. But the reason I Airstream here is because I'm like, okay, well, that's the only move I have that kills Kyogre, right? If I keep my Amoonguss in. But what I should have done is I should have switched my Amoonguss into Groudon, and in hindsight, I had no reason not to do that. Like, 0. What I should have done, the correct play here, is to switch Amoonguss into Groudon, right? And Wildfire the Kyogre slot. Because Wildfire in Sun does more than Airstream outside of Sun, because that's how Sun works. Because I get the 1.5 times multiplier from the Sun boost on fire moves and the 1.5 times multiplier from solar power. So that's over double, and then Wildfire's halved because of resistance. But overall, that ends up being stronger than an Airstream, right? So a Wildfire would kill Kyogre here. Now, the options here are either, like, if I think about what they've got in the back end, if they switch into P2, it's dead, right? Dead P2. If they switch into Ferrothorn, dead Ferrothorn. If they switch into Regieleki, dead Regieleki. If they switch into Incin, I deal, like, half, and I get Wildfire up, right? And I'm not killing it, I don't think I'm killing it with an Airstream anyway. Unless I, like, very high roll. And in any situation there, I either pick up a KO or deal, like, half to something, and I get Wildfire up. And I have Sun. So I've no reason not to do that. And now, what you'll see in a second is you're going to see... Okay, so let's wind back a bit. So, yeah, Giulio switches into Regieleki here. And I said at the start of this game, I didn't think Giulio would bring Regieleki here, but obviously he identified correctly that I got destroyed by Ferrothorn in the previous game, and so I'd want to bring Charizard to then deal with that, which is a very good adaptation from him. Like, the fact that he has Regieleki this game is a very, very good play. Yeah, if I'd gone for the play that I said I should have gone for, which is switching Groudon and Wildfire, Regieleki dies and the game's over, right? They lose their Regieleki, I have speed control against their Kyogre forever. I have Wildfire up, so everything's just taking a bunch of damage over time. Ferrothorn doesn't want to deal with that. Like, even if they bring Kyogre back in next turn, I could feasibly just go for, like, I could just switch Charizard out and go for, like, a Spore or something. And, yeah, like I said, I would have had Wildfire up, so everything would have just been dying slowly. And even if Kyogre had stayed in and protected, because, Wildfire would probably do, 3/4 outside of Protect? judging by the airstream damage. So it's doing, what, quarter of that? You're looking at kind of just under, a bit under a quarter to Kyogre. Through Protect, plus Wildfire Chip. Like, I honestly think, like, that plus another turn of Wildfire Chip would kill Kyogre, basically, I think. I think Wildfire plus Wildfire Chip again would kill Kyogre. So even if Kyogre protects there, I effectively get a knockout. And like if they bring Instant into that slot, they're in a terrible position. So there's no reason not to go for that. And like I said, if I just switch in Groudon here and Wildfire the Alecki, it's got Sash, right? But the Wildfire Chip kills it, and then the game's over, basically. Because they've got a Kyogre that's slower than my Charizard. I'll have another turn of Max, so I could just switch in my Thundurus and Airstream into the Kyogre slot, which is like dead safe. Or if they try and bring in whatever it was, obviously they can't bring in Ferrothorn because they just get chunked by Wildfire. So I think if I go for the switch into Groudon and Wildfire there, Dragapult's still a threat. Don't get me wrong, but Dragapult with a bunch of Wildfire Chip happening is just, it's gonna die eventually, right? And so, yeah, like, that I think was the turn that decided it. If I make that play correctly, I think I win. But I don't, and I Airstream into that slot again. And, like, if Giulio doesn't have Regieleki here, the Airstream play into that slot is still fine. But, because he did have Regieleki, I lose. Right, spoilers. But yeah, this just puts me in a really bad spot, because Charizard now, at +2 would outspeed Alecki, but, as we will see, Dragapult goes for an Airstream here, which covers for me going for an Airstream, which was smart. And this just means that because they have Regieleki in, I can't get Wildfire up now, because their Regieleki outspeeds me. So, their Regieleki now outspeeds my Charizard, even though I have +2. Yeah, I threw by not going for Wildfire there. And it would have also given me a bit of Regenerator chip on... a bit of Regenerator health back on Amoonguss, which isn't, like, huge, but it's something. I still did a lot on a resisted hit, though. Especially given that I'm not in Sun. I think my best play here, then, is to go for Groudon. And I don't think I do. Because at this moment in time, I don't recognise that Alecki's only move, or Alecki's strongest move, is Thunder. Like, the only move that's going to kill my G-Max Zard from this range is a Thunder. And so what I could do is I could bring in Groudon, and I could Wildfire into the Alecki slot. Which, they'd probably switch in Kyogre if I did that. But then they'd be taking a Wildfire and Wildfire Chip and stuff, and I think that puts me in a decent spot. And I can always just switch my Groudon to Thundurus and reset, or whatever. Or I don't know if I'd even actually need the Sun at that point. But basically, it would mean that Thunder's a 50-50 to hit. Actually, what I could have done is I could have switched in Groudon here and then switched Groudon out into Thundurus, or even just switch my Thundurus out into Groudon now. Oh, I know, because I would have lost the other war. So I should have brought in Groudon and switched Groudon to Thundurus and Wildfire into the Alecki slot. I go for the Max Guard here because I don't play sensible. Obvious Will-O-Wisp here. Also, I press Crunch here rather than Superpower, which was another stupid play. Because, as we will see in a second, this doesn't actually kill the Regieleki. Whereas if I'd gone for the Superpower, it would have done. I got scared of the attack drop, which was dumb. This was a dumb play as well. I don't think not wildfiring into Kyogre is not necessarily a dumb play, because obviously in 45 seconds you don't really have the time to process every single option. But not going for Superpower there was stupid. It was just stupid. Like if Ferrothorn switches in, that does more damage. If Kyogre switches in, it does more damage. If Alecki stays in, it does more damage. And like I missed out on the KO there. And now Alecki threatens my Charizard too much. Whereas, what, if I take the KO there, then, like, Pult's still a threat, because it can burn all my stuff. But I'd at least have speed control with Charizard. Like, I could have potentially switched in, like, if they brought in Kyogre, I would have been able to switch in my, Groudon to get Sun Up, which puts Kyogre in KO range. And I could have potentially used that to make a read and hit the Dragapult, in which case I'm still in a good position, right? Yeah, like, if Alecki dies there, I just need to take a single KO in order to keep weather control and win the game, basically. So yeah, those two consecutive turns were dumb on my end, basically. And those were the 2 turns where I lost it. I had a really rough matchup. I played decently around it, and then on those 2 turns I just threw. Basically, well, maybe not through, but like I played very suboptimally. Like both of the moves I said there, like even after making the mistake initially, I could have switched in Groudon and or just like max guarded my Charizard and superpowered the Alecki to death. And in that situation, I'm still in good shape. Because even if they bring in Kyogre's taking enough damage that I think a Wild Charge, even when burned, honestly, well, I guess with the Super Power drop it wouldn't have done. But I could have switched Groudon into the Thundy slot and just gone for an Air Slash into Kyogre, right? And then Kyogre can't really do much. I guess that wouldn't have been guaranteed, because if they made a read and protected Kyogre and went for a Phantom Force, which would have made sense, then there wouldn't really been much I could have done about that. But I mean, if they do that, I could always just switch my Groudon back into Thundurus, so they don't eat a Water Spout. Like, they would have put me in an advantageous position, and now it's just a case of my opponent cleaning up, because... why did I switch Groudon there? I guess I maybe tried to make a read on something, but Crunch is going to do, like, 0 damage. Yeah. And they Leech Seed into that slot. Yeah, now after Solar Power and stuff, I'm dead to a Phantom Force. The Charizard switch there, I think I could have also done better than that. Like, I could have just sat Groudon in that situation, because Charizard would have had speed control over Kyogre, and it's my only way through Ferrothorn, right? So I think what I should have done there, potentially, is gone for... Like, the Crunch to Dragapult was fine, but I should have just taken the damage on Groudon, gone for a bit of, like, P-Blade's Chip, or even gone for, like, a Swords Dance or something, and save my Charizard, because Charizard's the win con there. Like, the reason I did that is because I wanted to get my Groudon out the back to potentially get Sun Up again once Kyogre comes in, but in hindsight I didn't need that. Like, my best win con there was just taking a couple KOs before Kyogre comes in and then flinching the Kyogre with an Air Slash. But instead I just took a whole bunch of unnecessary damage on Charizard, which was the problem. So they go for Phantom Force here, they protect Ferrothorn, because... Oh, they don't go for Phantom Force. Oh, I guess Darts is safe there, because, yeah, either they kill my Thundurus or they kill my Zard. In fact, they definitely kill my Thundurus, and they either kill my Zard or, like, or they don't. But, yeah, this game's pretty wrapped up now, because I think, now I think they go for the Phantom Force into Charizard, which is 100% safe. And their Kyogre's faster than my Groudon. So, Phantom Force into Charizard here, and literally just any move with Ferrothorn is guaranteed. And I believe that's what Giulio goes for. So... Yeah, they Phantom Force. I killed the Ferrothorn with Heat Wave. I could go for a Swords Dance there, but like it doesn't really matter, because now they just reappear with Phantom Force and Water Spout me and I'm dead. So that's the game. So, as you can see, like, the matchup was bad. I got myself into situations where I could have won it. And in fact, like, especially in Game 3, I made a couple of plays that just weren't that smart. And had I, like, I think nerves were a part of it. Like, had I taken a bit more time to, like, think things through, I could have figured out that I had win conditions there. I hesitate to call it a throw. Just because, like, a throw is, oh, there's an obvious play, or, like, a play that's 100% guaranteed and you miss it. Whatever. So, like, I don't want to say, like, oh, I threw that, but I did misplay very severely towards the end of Game 3 on a couple of occasions. That's not to say Giulio didn't play well, because, like I said, like, the matchup was in his favour. Like, credit to him for building a team that did really well into the meta. I actually don't know where he finished up overall, but, like, given the metagame is Sun, like, the combination of Ferrothorn, Lumberry, Dragapult, and Kyogre into Sun is really good. Like, that's smart team building. So that was really well on his end. Really, really well built team. Yeah, I guess it's just a case of, like, I adapted, I think, relatively well. He adapted really well as well by bringing the Alecki, reading that I'd bring the Charizard, and I guess I just didn't play around that very well. Because, like I said, if the last Pokemon is Incineroar there, that Airstream is still fine. But I just didn't consider the fact that Alecki could be the last. And so I think, yeah, I think switching, like, on that one particular turn where I Airstreamed into the Alecki switch in, if I'd just switched into Groudon and gone for Wildfire, I think that's pretty much, it's not game over, but like it's so heavily in my favour. And upon reflection, there's no reason to not do that. So yeah, that's kind of the one turn I regret, I'd say, because that just puts me in a position where I can just start swinging at the slot next to Dragapult, and like Dragapult will eventually die to wildfire damage and whatever the hell chip damage I deal to it. So I just start swinging at whatever's next to it, and they'll eventually drop. Like, I don't think Kyogre would have been able to come in and take. Yeah, let me think. If Alecki goes down, Kyogre comes in, and I Airstream. If they switch into Ferrothorn, I think Ferrothorn's probably dead to Sun-boosted Airstream plus Wildfire damage. If not, then it's dead to another hit afterwards, so I can just double it to Ferrothorn the next turn. If Kyogre stays in and eats an Airstream through Protect, I think it does enough that it puts it in Wildfire range, so if it dies, potentially you could Phantom Force into Dragapult, Phantom Force into Charizard. So Phantom Force on that turn into Charizard, so after it gets small, you Phantom Force. I don't know if that would have been enough to kill. So after that, I could have just gone Air Slash into, or even Heat Wave. I could have gone Heat Wave into both and then just like crunch into Dragapult or whatever. Yeah, I think if I'd gone for the Wildfire that turn, like there's basically no option that doesn't cover. So I guess to an extent that's a throw, but the reason I say it's not is because that's just such, like, having to consider that many options all at once. I don't think it's necessarily a throw that I didn't go for that, but yeah, well played, Giulio. Like I said, really well with the team. He adapted really well. Like if he hadn't, like I said, if he hadn't brought Alecki that last game, that Airstream play I think is still completely safe because I get another speed boost up, and then I have Charizard in Sun faster than everything apart from the Dragapult, and that's basically the end. If they don't have Regieleki. So that play there where they switched in Regieleki and went for the Airstream was smart. Like I said, I could have got around that by just setting up the Sun. Yeah, well played to Giulio. It was a good run overall. I would have been, joint 13th? Because that's how double elimination works, which is pretty decent. Like I said, immediately after the set, I thought I played quite well. Upon watching it again, I kind of realised, like, I'm a little disappointed in how I played that, but like I'm happy with my run overall, especially since like I got dumped into losers bracket super early by. I mean, I misplayed game one of the first set I lost, but like I got very unlucky on a crit on the on game 3 there. So I think in light of that, I'm very happy with my run regardless. Like coming through what four rounds of losers, including beating Edu in the round before this, I can't complain. Like, especially given that I didn't enjoy this format that much, still getting a top 16 place in EUPC was good. So maybe I could have gone further had I played a little better on the day, but like I didn't handle my nerves that well, which was on me. Giulio played better on the day. I can't complain. So yeah, thank you everyone for watching. GG's to everyone who I played in Players Cup. Fun experience. I'm looking forward to to playing Players Cup in a format I actually enjoy. So yeah, next one I think should be a lot more enjoyable. Because I'm pretty sure I qualified for that now. I've done the IC and I finished at like 1680 something, which has never not been a qualifying place, and I'm pretty sure fewer people played in this IC than in most, because a lot of people have just fallen out of, like, just don't like this format. Which is fair enough, because I also think it's a really bad format, but I don't have to care about it anymore. Yeah, thank you everyone for watching. If you enjoyed this content, please do let me know. I can try and do more stuff like this in future. I don't know if I've got any old sets I can dig up at this current time, but like I could do kind of analyses of other sets that I can dig up, which could be kind of fun. I know Wolfglick did similar on his channel. I know I'm not Wolfglick, but kind of similar format. So if you're interested in this kind of slightly more long form analytical content, then do let me know. And yeah, if you haven't already, please do sub to the channel. All support is appreciated, as always. Drop a like on the video if you've enjoyed it, and yeah, that is all for me this time. I hope you guys enjoy. I was going to say the rest of your weekend, but I realise this is getting sent out on Sunday, so there's not much more weekend to enjoy. But yeah, I will see you guys next time. Bye bye.